All right, hey, we're going to try something a little bit different today. I've created this presentation actually for another class that I've taught, but the implications of this course, or I created this presentation for another class that I taught, but the implications of it are actually so relevant to this week on emotions that I just couldn't help but include this. So today we're going to talk about the process for aligning our beliefs with objective truth, but more specifically, we're going to talk about the role that our emotions play in aligning our beliefs with objective truth. Remember, we talked about all the way back in week 1 and consistently throughout just how important navigating. Remember, we talked like all the way back in week 1 and continuously throughout this course about how important it is to embody truth, how important it is for us to align our beliefs and our actions with what is actually true, right? Our yes is yes and our no is no. We say what we believe, right? And then we look into scripture for what it says about us, what it says about the world, and we act as if we believe those things, right? And that when we do that, we actually have the most freedom possible because our actions are continually in alignment with how God has ordered the universe. And today we're going to talk about how our emotions help us to do that even more efficiently and give us the energy that we need to change when we need to. So let's talk about the process for aligning our beliefs with objective truth. All right, so this first sentence is a little wordy, but I'm going to break it down for us. We have been designed to continuously optimize the predictability of our agent-arena relationship. Lots of words, so let's break it down. This is you, right here. You are the agent. An agent is anything that has autonomy and is able to do things, right? So you have the ability to act, you have the ability to choose, all of that kind of stuff. So you are the agent, okay? This right here is your arena. Your arena is everything that you experience, and you're a permanent resident in your arena, right? The only way that you could not have an arena is if you did not exist. Okay, so your arena is your physical environment around you. It's your mind's environment. It's the things that you feel, your thoughts, all of this kind of stuff. Everything that you experience is your arena. And the agent-arena relationship is how you interact, move through, and experience your existence. Now, what does it mean to continuously optimize the predictability of that? Well, we're going to go into detail about like how that works here in just a second. But essentially, what we're saying is that God has designed us to consistently, over and over, look for ways to increase our ability to know the kinds of results that our actions are going to produce in our environment, right? Because if we predict wrongly, right? If we predict that something is going to happen and something else happens, given the circumstance, that could be deadly to us. And so we are actually really, really designed and optimized to optimize the predictability of this relationship. Now, some of these ideas that I'm getting about the agent-arena relationship, and when we're here in a second, we're going to talk about our filters that help us to decide what's relevant information to us. A lot of my thoughts have been informed by John Vervaeke on that, so I'm going to put a link in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more about what he has to say about this. He's a psychologist at the University of Toronto, brilliant man. And so he kind of got me started down this rabbit trail, and I've kind of taken it and put it into the framework of Scripture. So anyway, so we've been designed to continuously optimize the predictability of our agent-arena relationship. Now, we are heavily incentivized to maximize our ability to predict what will happen in our arena, because if we make a bad call, death and despair could ensue, right? That's what we just talked about. We have a problem, though. There is so much information in our arena that it's impossible to process all of it. Now, just think about how much possible information you could be paying attention to right now, right? In the room that you're sitting in, you could be paying attention to how fast your heart is beating, what your breathing is like. You could be paying attention to the exact color hue of your screen. You could be paying attention to the noise of the fly buzzing on the other side of the room. You could pay attention to how many atoms are in the desk in front of you. There's literally an infinite amount of possible information for you to distill just in a single moment in a single room. And because of that, we have to have shortcuts to be able to navigate our arena. Our arena has so much information coming in that if we don't have shortcuts, we cannot act. We can't make decisions. We can't know what's going to happen. We would just be immobilized all the time. We'd be paralyzed. All right, so we need a mental shortcut. Now, the official term for that mental shortcut is a heuristic, but we're just going to call it a mental shortcut for this. Now, our belief system, which is the relationship between all of the individual things that we believe to be true, is our answer to that problem. It is our filter. What we believe is the frame through which we see our environment. It filters out the majority of the incoming information so that we can focus in on the information that is relevant to us, not dying or despairing. God has programmed us to think smarter, not harder, so to speak. This process is also evidence that morality is absolutely necessary to navigate the world, but that's another topic that, although I would love to get into it now, is not really relevant to this conversation, so we're going to save it for another day. To summarize this slide here, right, we have a system of beliefs, and what we believe, our worldview, our belief system, all of that, it's our filter so that we know what information to focus on and what information to ignore. Right? If we didn't have these filters, once again, we would not be able to navigate our relationship with our arena. So we have to have these filters, and we do that through the things that we believe. Now, I'm going to walk you through the process and how it works to increase our predictive capabilities and to keep us from being overwhelmed by information. All right, we first develop a belief about something that serves as a predictive filter. This belief is developed as we gain more and more information about our arena and our relationship with it. As a baby, we have very little information, which is why babies touch and play with and look at and explore everything. They're discovering what their arena is like. If you've ever been around a baby at a certain age, like 6 months or something like that, they could be sitting in their high chair and they will keep throwing their fork off of their high chair onto the ground. And then you pick it back up and you put it on there and they throw it off again. And they love this game. Babies love this game. Why? It's because they're actually figuring out the predictability of, if I throw this, does it go down? Right? And it's very enjoyable to them. They're getting positive emotion as they develop this belief in gravity. Now, there's a little bit of a chicken or the egg situation here, like which came first, a belief or our actions that give us information or anything like that. And that's beyond this discussion. And you're going to see in a minute that it's circular anyway, so we're not going to worry about where it starts. I just chose to start at belief because it was an easy starting point here. But it is circular, right? The beliefs develop the actions and so on and so forth. But you're going to see that. So let's move on. All right, the belief informs the actions that we take. Right? We do not act on something that we do not believe to be true, or that we do not at least give the possibility of being true. For example, or I'll give a simple example that we can use that's easy to understand to walk through all of this. All right. So belief is that dogs like it when I pet them. Dogs like me when I pet them. And so therefore, the action that is informed by that belief is that I pet the dog. Right? If I believe that dogs don't like me when I pet them, then I'm not going to go pet any dogs. Right? Now, that action is our interaction with our arena. The dog's part of our arena, part of our experience, right? So we have a belief. That belief informs an action. And then our arena, the dog, provides us with feedback on that action. If that feedback is in alignment with our belief, for example, belief, dogs like me when I pet them. Action, I pet dog. Feedback, dog wags tail. Hey, that's in alignment with that belief. The dog seems to like it when I pet him. So we have consonants. Now, consonants, I'm a musician, so I hear that word in music all the time, but con means with, sonance is sound, right? So it's sounding together. They're in alignment. So we really like consonants. God has designed our bodies to produce happy chemicals when our agent-arena relationship is consonant. So when it's consonant, we experience positive emotions, right? We believe the dog likes us. When we pet them, we pet the dog. Dog wags its tail. The belief and the feedback are in alignment. We experience positive emotion because of that. Because our predictive ability has proven to be accurate. Our belief system, our filter, has correctly filtered information based on this interaction with the dog here. Now, these positive emotions serve to reinforce the beliefs that are associated with the actions that led to the confirmation of that consonance. It doesn't even have to happen consciously. Like, it usually happens subconsciously. So in this example, dog likes me when I pet them, belief. I pet dog, action. Dog wags tail, feedback, consonance. I am happy, right? And therefore, it reinforces the belief that dogs do, in fact, like me when I pet them. And because we experience these positive emotions, like those emotions actually like motivate us to continue acting on this belief. They tell us like, hey, this belief is predictable. This belief is a good filter. You can navigate your environment well with this belief. Hold on to it. And the more we have that consonance, the more we have positive emotions that reinforce that belief, and the more core to our belief system this particular belief becomes. But what happens when that feedback is not in alignment with our held belief? Then we get dissonance, right? Which is the opposite of consonance. It's disalignment. We are programmed to experience negative emotion when we encounter dissonance. So in this example, let's say the dog does not like it, right? So we have a belief, dogs like me when I pet them. Action, I pet the dog. Feedback, dog bites me. Not consonant. Oh, okay. So we have dissonance now. And when we experience dissonance, we have negative emotions that come up because there's something that's gone wrong with our predictive engine here, right? The belief that we had inspired this action. That action produced feedback that then was not in alignment with this belief that we held in the first place. So we become scared and confused in this situation. Now we have a dilemma. Our mental shortcut has not served us like it was supposed to. We're motivated by our negative emotions now to figure out what happened. I mean, imagine if you didn't have those negative emotions. You would just like keep performing that belief because you wouldn't have any reason to not do it because you wouldn't feel like doing anything about it, right? So those negative emotions are a gift. We're going to talk about that more at the end, about just what a gift those are. But let's see what we can do about this when we experience those negative emotions. So obviously, because of the definition of them being negative emotions, we really don't like them. And so we want to get rid of them. Choice number one to get rid of that negative emotion is to just ignore it, right? And if it's something small, we can usually just do this by not thinking about it or by pushing it to the side or convincing ourselves that it doesn't matter. And sometimes it takes like more things to distract us. Like maybe we got to scroll on social media, or maybe we've got to, or maybe we've got to go eat some sugary candy, or even more so, maybe we've got to use a substance to get our mind distracted from these negative emotions and to ameliorate those. All right. So the benefit of ignoring these negative emotions is that we do get back to consonance, right? And then we have positive emotions and they reinforce this belief. The problem, the downside, is that if we do that, we might be ignoring valuable information about our arena and reinforcing an incomplete or an incorrect belief, thus damaging our predictive engine, right? If we ignore these negative emotions, we actually damage our ability to navigate the world and to make decisions, which robs us of freedom. It robs us of autonomy, because then we're going to continue to act in ways that do not produce the kinds of results that we can depend on. And that is a recipe for misery, let me tell you. All right. So in this case, right, we have this belief, dogs like me when I pet them. I pet the dog bites me. I experience dissonance, and therefore I'm scared and confused. I ignore the negative emotion that reinforces the belief that dogs still like me when I pet them, and therefore I pet the dog again. Now, if we continue doing that, continue with this same belief and acting on the original belief, will produce the same actions, which will continue to give us feedback. Once we've gotten enough dissonance, though, enough dissonant feedback from an action, it'll become very difficult to ignore the negative emotion associated with it, because we're so wired to develop that predictive ability. We'll have to either rely on external stimuli to ignore it, like distractions or substances or porn or whatever it is, or we'll have to figure out what's wrong. Either our belief is faulty, right? For example, not all dogs are happy when I pet them. Or our perception of what happened is faulty, right? The dog didn't actually bite me. I got stung by a wasp just as the dog was moving toward me. And so for a second, I thought that the dog bit me, right? So it's either our belief or the information that's wrong. We got to figure that out. And the great thing is, hey, we have these pesky negative emotions to motivate us to figure that out. Now, in order to find out which is at fault, we must perform new actions. So, for example, the dog bites me, I'm scared and confused, and then I back up and I slowly reach my hand out toward the dog, right? That's if we're not ignoring it. Now, here's what's really interesting about this. This new action isn't performed in a vacuum. It's actually predicated on the assumption of a new belief. That new action is an acting out of a potentially adoptable belief. So the graph really actually looks more like this, right? So we experience these negative emotions and we're like, okay, maybe this established belief that I have is unreliable, but I don't know. I need to figure it out. So I'm going to suspend this belief temporarily, and in this situation, act on a potential new belief, right? So in this case, the potential new belief would be like, hey, maybe dogs don't like it when I pet them. And we're going to then perform the action that is predicated on this new potential belief. All right, so when we perform that new action, the whole feedback process happens again, just with like that first belief. And that feedback either reinforces the new potential belief. Slowly reach toward the dog growls, okay, I was right, hey, it doesn't like me. Or it reinforces the currently held belief, the established belief. I reach toward the dog wags tail. Okay, maybe my information was wrong. Eventually, if we do this, we'll either more deeply strengthen our trust in the original belief, right? Dog keeps wagging his tail, it was just a spoof. Or we'll adopt the new belief that we're trying on, dog keeps growling at me, right? And so whichever one, based on our feedback, gives us the best predictive capability on our agent-arena relationship is the one that we're eventually going to adopt. So a couple things worth noticing about this process. If we allow this entire process that we've just gone through to work itself out, and if we help this process along, our beliefs will align more and more and more with reality. That means that God intentionally designed us with an inherent process to seek truth. Like God put this in us. He put the motivation in us to seek truth. And like I said, we talked about just how important seeking truth is. God has given you the tools to discover the truth that you need to find joy and freedom in the ability to predictively make decisions in this world and have autonomy, because you know that when you act, you'll get a predictable result. That is so freeing, right? That ultimate freedom is found when we're ultimately aligned with the truth of how God ordered creation. And this process allows us to experience deeply freeing and joy-filled life if we allow God to use it for our transformation. This is so cool. This is so cool. The engine driving this process, here's like my whole point for today in this discussion for emotions, right? Is that the engine driving this process is our emotions. If we don't understand our emotions, or we disconnect from our emotions, or we have a bad relationship with our emotions, we cannot efficiently participate in this process, right? And then this process is just going to go on kind of under the surface, and we don't have any control over it. But if we know what we're feeling, then at this point or at this point, we can actually jump in and influence this process and decide what we're going to do. This means that our emotions are a gift from God, designed in part to lead us to truth. It's just so cool to me, right? If we didn't have these emotions, we wouldn't be motivated to do any of this. Therefore, if we didn't have emotions, we would continue making bad predictions and we would not align ourselves with truth. Whoo, buddy. Some beliefs now are more foundational than others, meaning more beliefs rest upon them. Now, the degree of emotion that we experience in consonance or dissonance correlates with the foundational depth of the belief. For example, like if you find out your shirt is teal instead of blue, that's not really going to make any strong emotions come out in you, probably, right? Or at least not nearly as many as finding out that your girlfriend's been cheating on you, right? Because color of your shirt doesn't really affect your life that much. It's not really going to affect how you navigate your relationship that much if you've got the shade of your shirt off. However, on the contrary, you've built a lot of beliefs around the faithfulness of your girlfriend. And if you find out that those are wrong, you have all these other beliefs on top of it that rely on that belief being true that you've based your life on. And you've got to question a whole lot of stuff now, which is why you experience so much negative emotion when you have that dissonance of, I thought this person was faithful, but they're not. Right? Oh, man. So, since God is truth, this process will always lead to Him. If we allow this process to carry itself out, if we allow God to use it, if we are honest about what we're feeling, and we're able to discern what it is that those feelings are telling us, then this is going to lead us closer to God. God intentionally designed us with an inherent psychological process to seek the truth that leads us to Him. That is so cool. And our emotions are like the crux of it, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be motivated to do this anyway. So this little step's interesting too. So remember we said that when we perform a new action after we experience dissonance, we're actually acting out a potential new belief. Well, we're suspending our currently held belief for a moment to allow for the possibility of a new belief to take hold and acting as if that new belief is true before it's established. And this is what the Bible is talking about when it mentions faith. Faith is acting as if something could be true even when we do not have all the information. I got bad news for all my perfectionists out here. And I'm speaking as a former perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist myself, right? You can never be sure about anything. You can't. There's just too much information to be sure about everything, to be sure about anything, right? You cannot know for sure if something is true. You can't reason through it. The end. You can't. Therefore, acting in this new way is not based on clarity. This new action is predicated on the idea that I'm going to allow for a second the possibility that this new belief is true, and I'm going to act on it, right? We don't act on something that we don't at least have an idea that it could be true, right? If you just knew 100% that something wasn't true, you wouldn't act on it. There would be no reason to, because you already have all the information you need, right? This is faith. That's why faith without works is dead, right? Just thinking something in our head isn't believing it. Acting on it is believing it. So here we find confirmation of a theological doctrine in this biological, psychological process, which is so freaking cool to me. So allow this process to lead you into all truth and deeper in love and understanding of God. Final thoughts here as we close up. I know this was a long one, but man, as you can tell, I'm just like stoked about this. Your emotions are a gift from God that allow you to understand Him more. And if you understand your emotions, if you grow in your understanding of your emotions, and you grow in your understanding of what your emotions are telling you, and you look at the things that they're telling you, you're going to find places where the things that you believe don't line up with how God has ordered the universe, with how God has created you, with who God is. And knowing that information can actually allow you to try on new beliefs based on what Scripture says or based on what the information you've been given says. Right? So your emotions actually allow for faith in the first place. It's so cool. So that's why your emotions are so important. That's part of why your emotions are so important and why we're spending so much time talking about like understanding them and all of that, because if you use them well and you grow in how you use them as a tool, you will encounter God. Hope this was helpful for you, friends. Tomorrow, we're going to dive deeper into our emotions and how we're going to use them in not being manipulated.